Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 79. In this episode, I speak with author, actor, and poet Khalilah Yasmin. Khalilah is a great friend of mine. This is her second appearance on the podcast, and I always enjoy our conversations leading into the book of the episode, which is actually two books of the episode, as Khalilah has just written two books. The first one is called Redwoods. Phenomenal read, and the other is Letters Never Sent, which is also incredible. You can get them both on Amazon, among many other books Khalilah has written. If you want to listen to the podcast, be sure to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you want to watch the podcast, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/@thesamdeverpodcast. Here's my conversation with Khalilah. Khalilah Yasmin, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast again.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming on again. How are you?
Wonderful. Alive, aware, awake.
You know what? As long as you do wake up each day and you're feeling good, that's really all you can ask for most of the time. At least that's what I've been trying to lean toward lately.
Absolutely.
I was listening to our old podcast we did. Shoot, that's been about a year and a half ago, maybe a little more.
When was that? That was early 22.
What? Maybe, yeah. I think you're right. And it was interesting. I'll just start with this right at the bat, because one of the things we talked about, you said on there, I really want to go check out the Redwoods someday.
Oh, I did?
Yes, I swear to you. And that's actually, and we'll just plug it right now, one of your new books, Redwoods by Khalilah Yasmin, available now on Amazon. But it was very interesting. It was very full circle. And I even listened to really what we talked about past that, because I'm like, that's good enough. Here we go.
I love that. That's manifestation. I wasn't even thinking about writing a book called Redwoods at that time.
Yeah. And not only that, but you had mentioned you had a project in mind. So the book wasn't even on your mind back then.
Maybe it was. I mean, I don't remember. I don't know. Maybe I just wanted to go there, and I don't know, because I didn't start writing the book until January of 23. So,
What was the inception of that idea? Take me from the beginning of the Redwoods project. Take me, beside you manifesting it on the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 30, for anyone who wants to go check it out. Having this desire to go to the Redwood. Yep.
So I've always been infatuated with trees. Nature in general. I just feel like trees carry a lot of ancient wisdom. And, I wanted to write something that showcased my admiration for them, while also having another plot line, of course, but incorporating how important they are to the environment and us. And I feel like trees have a lot of ancient wisdom hidden within them, and I wanted to incorporate that in the book as well. So, I have pictures of trees all over my home. Even when I went to Hawaii, I think you talked to me the last time right after I came back from Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And when I was there, I was hugging and touching trees. And even though they were a different type of tree, it's just something I've always loved.
So, okay, you had the idea. And so you start writing it, you said, beginning of January 2023?
Correct.
And take me from that. When you type those first few words, what's the process from there? Time-wise and just the process of it?
So I'm an avid dreamer. Dreamer as in, when I slumber, I remember my dreams every night since around age 7, as far back as I can remember. And sometimes when I'm dreaming, I get ideas and I see visions, and those dreams give me ideas to write something or glimpses into the idea. And, I don't really know where the idea for the characters in Redwoods came about. I don't know. I wanted to follow a journey of several different people and somehow tie that into trees. I know that sounds silly, but my brain is my brain is a separate mind of its own. It's like here's Khalilah and here's the brain. It's like the brain has its own agenda.
Well, and just to plug another one of your books, Matador, for example, what I love about your writing, your novels you write, is you have no idea what it's going to be. like,
No, I
like
really
you hear
don't.
Redwoods, you're like, Redwoods, oh, okay, so this has to do with the Redwoods. But then you start the book and you're like, oh, I won't give anything away, but I'm just like, I wasn't expecting that, but I'm in. I'm in for whatever this journey is.
I get that. Yeah, I like with Matador, it was a little bit different because Matador was inspired by my trip to Shanghai. And I had a end goal with that where I wanted to not teach the audience a lesson in a sense of superiority, but show them a lesson that the characters are learning as you go along and follow their journeys. So I wanted to showcase those three different journeys of those characters. With Redwoods, it was a little bit different because I like for my characters to have a lesson and teach the audience something. It was just it's just a different animal completely.
Hmm. So back to Redwoods. So you got this story. Then you went to the actual Redwoods, correct?
Yes.
Was the book officially finished before then, or were you getting toward the end of it? You take me through that?
So I was getting towards the end, and I'm a very visual and visceral type of person. I need to be able to taste, touch, feel, and smell my environment in certain instances. There are times when I can write something and my imagination can fill in the blanks along with my detailed research and, you know, internet scouring. But there was something about Redwoods, I had to be there. And then, of course, I rewrote a lot of the chapters after being there because I was like, okay, I've actually been there. I've hugged the trees. I've smelled the air. I've tasted, the environment. There was something about that. I just had to be there in order to, um, just to taint the book with my experience
Hmm.
in a positive way. Taint. Well, I
So
mean, taint
I
has
would.
the word taint has a negative connotation, like taint as into like, poison or something. So not taint in that context, but
Oh,
taint
that there
as
is
in
no. Well, I was thinking of the third definition
no,
of it, but we
no,
won't even. We
no.
won't even go.
I probably
Anyway,
used the wrong word.
it was a nice cherry on top, if you will, to
Yes,
actually go
yes.
to the Redwoods. And what was it like up there? I mean, did you? I mean, I've talked to you a little bit about it. It sounded like it was an incredible experience.
It was glorious. However, if I could go again, I feel like I would want to go with a group of people. It was very remote. My phone did not work up there unless I was connected to Wi Fi or for some reason next to the ocean. I don't know why next to the ocean, but the city of Trinidad, California, which is a city I was staying in a motel in, there are no cell towers. So I went with a girlfriend of mine, and she loves nature and trees as well. So she was happy to be invited. And thankfully, her phone worked because I would have been SOL, and that would have been very terrifying to be in the middle of the woods by myself with no cell service. But it was, you could smell the air there. You could feel the trees trying to communicate with you. I don't mean to sound like a spiritual weirdo, but it was very spiritually enlightening, and it was necessary not just for my book, but for me.
And what I love about you taking that trip, you're one of those people. I mean, similar to the Hawaii, what we talked about on the last podcast. That was a place you always wanted to go, and then you just booked that ticket and you went. Same thing with the Redwoods. I remember you like, yeah, I just got to go on this trip, and then finally you just did it. Like you just did it and went and
Life is
experienced.
now. Like I booked my ticket before inviting my friend. So if she wasn't going to come, I was still going. I already booked it. So that's one thing about me. If I want to do something, nothing's going to stand in my way. I'm going to get it done.
Absolutely. So then you go, You go to the Redwoods, you come back, and then it's time to publish this thing.
Yeah. And
And for
all of my books are fairly short. So, Redwoods isn't quite as long as Matador, for instance, but I like to write for the reader that has a short attention span in today's digital age.
No, and that's what I like about your books too. Yeah, you I mean you can sit down. I mean, for some people, might take them a couple of sittings, a few sittings, but I mean, if you're a pretty avid reader, I mean, you can knock it out in a couple hours maybe. And but to me, it's a great. It's almost like watching a movie. Like you could sit down and watch a movie, or I could just sit down for 2 hours and have a movie in my head. Because I told you this before. Your writing is very cinematic. I really feel like
Yes.
I'm reading a movie script. Like Redwoods in your other past work, like this really felt like oh, this could so easily be a movie. What I'm
I love that. I mean, when
Yeah.
I was younger, and still, I mean, it's still a dream of mine to have um, my books be turned into film or series. That would be a dream come true.
Hey, well you already got it written.
Yes,
So I mean
yes.
that's
And my father was a playwright and actor, director. So I come from a family of creators. And so I feel like I had no choice in the matter. It was just born and written in my DNA. So I'm grateful for the gift. And it's also a curse in a sense because being an artist is not easy.
and hold that thought because I definitely want to dive into that concept. but but before I do, so Redwoods, if you had to sum it up to someone on the spot in a sentence or two, what would you tell them it's about? Like what can they expect? Or should they not ask
Well,
questions and just go buy it and read it?
I tend to have my synopsis memorized, so I would just give them the synopsis. Now, this synopsis is a lot shorter than some of my descriptions on some of my other books because this one I didn't want to give it away. So I'm like, how do I write this and keep it sort of a twist? But so a lot of people, they read the back of it and it sounds like it's something romantic and it's not. But, it's recently single and scorned. A young woman takes a new lover on a road trip that one of them does not return from. So it sounds like something that it maybe isn't, but then at the same time it is. I like twist. Even in high school when I was writing books and getting them passed around my classmates, my books always have a twist. Anything that I create, I like the element of surprise. I don't want to be predictable.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great way to sum that up. Very, very. I don't want to give too much away, but very Quentin Tarantino-ish in certain
Yes.
parts. Like, yeah, there's I'm like, oh, did that just happen? That was nuts.
Yeah, there was a scene in Redwoods that I was writing and I had to take a break like, Khalilah, are you okay? Sometimes my own brain shocks me and I'm like, where did this come from?
Oh, it's phenomenal. And again, because we have another book of yours to talk about, because you not only dropped one release, you dropped two. But
Yes.
Redwoods, where can they go to get it?
Amazon.
Amazon. And if they go to Amazon and they go look for Redwoods in your name, they're probably going to find your new one. Also,
Yes.
Khalilah Yasmin, Letters Never Sent.
And so there's a common theme with both of these. So I did both of the covers while I was in the Redwoods. So this one, obviously, I took this picture and it's, of my hiking in the Redwoods. And Letters Never Sent, this picture was taken outside of the motel I was staying at and with the wood and everything and the burning and redwoods happen to be resistant to fire. So there's a theme that I wanted to incorporate with imperviousness to struggles, to fire, to rising against, some of the things that life throws at us and being like the redwood tree, and redwood trees have the capacity to heal themselves and their counterparts. And I think that's beautiful.
Hmm. And I love the concept, or just the title alone, Letters Never Sent.
Yeah, actually, you know
And
what? When I search the hashtag online, I find a lot of people have books called Letters Never Sent. And there's albums out there called Letters Never Sent. It's a thing, I guess. I guess a lot of people write letters and never send them.
well, and I was actually reading this during Thanksgiving time, and there was a couple of them. Some of them I had recognized, but then some of them either I'd never had heard it or it'd been a while, and I was just like, I texted you. I'm just like bars, bars. Like there's a few of them in there where I just like, whoa, like
Yay!
that's some real stuff. And I had someone tell me one time, when it comes to art, I'll never forget this guy. I was in Vegas actually. He told me, he's like, yeah, man. He's like, art should hit you in the should hit you in the face like a shovel. He's like, if someone doesn't get emotional one way or the other by what they're reading or watching or whatever it is from you, he's like, you didn't go there. He's like, you didn't, not to discount it, but some of the greatest art's just some of the most realist stuff that is going to pull out certain emotions in you. So with your
Right.
poetry, maybe position, not only do you write books, but you write poetry, you perform poetry. I've seen you several times performing
Yes.
in Vegas, and actually some of my greatest artistic memories in Vegas were rest in peace to the Beat Coffee House in
Yeah,
downtown Las Vegas. So take me through the poetry journey. Take us all through that.
so poetry is a lot easier for me to write than formulating a story because I can put out a poem in like 5 minutes. It's somebody can say a word like strawberry, or I can have an experience like going on a hike, for instance, and there's a snail, and somebody says something about a banana slug or something, and I just fixate on a word, and then all of a sudden my brain starts branching out like a redwood tree, and I come up with all these different ideas of how to turn this into a poem, and it it just takes a life of its own.
And what are your future plans with poetry? I mean, is it just something, I don't know, like to me, like it's so cool, like how you can come up with stuff so fast. And why I love what you do on your sound, is it the SoundCloud, where you're able to add the
Yes.
music and stuff in the background to it? I mean, it's really an
Yes.
experience.
I need some better, I have a couple on there that were produced by a colleague of mine, Cody Canyon. So those are produced in the studio. I have three on there that are like professionally produced. Some of the other ones I'm just recording in my living room. And that's fine. I'm using what I have to put the art out there. But what I would like to do with my poetry, for me, poetry is it's therapy, it's entertainment. Some of it has to do with my life, some of it doesn't. It's just a form of expression. I would like to maybe one day perform at schools. Like there was a poem I did, was that last 2 months ago, Human Experience, which used to be at the Beat. They had a reunion downtown, and I performed a piece that was near and dear to me. And it was talking about some of the things that are going on in society, like with suicide and so forth, and homelessness. And it's called Good at It. And that one, I got a little emotional when I was on the stage performing it, and I was super nervous. And I don't typically get nervous performing poetry, but for some reason, that one brought out an emotional component that I wasn't prepared for while speaking in front of an audience. And I felt really vulnerable, with that one. So I would like to perform that piece for more people, and maybe it'll touch someone.
Just as we're on the topic, I mean, thinking back to the Las Vegas poetry I've been to, and even out here in Los Angeles, one thing I gotta give credit to, like poetry open mics, and people are supportive at any artistic endeavor really, but I feel especially the poetry scene, people are so supportive and what would the word be, very like encouraging and non-judgmental, because like you just said, like with poetry, I mean, it can get, I mean, that's pretty much as naked as it can get. like like when it comes to the verbal arts, at least, because when people are exposing their deepest struggles in front of
Yeah,
strangers.
sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, like, I would say a good 50-50 is experiences that I've been through. Some of it's imagination, some of it's things that I've observed. And I admit I'm an emotional person who overthinks sometimes, and it comes from a good place. I don't overthink with maliciousness. I overthink more so with compassion. And, I'm always, I try to be aware and conscientious of who I am, what I'm doing, and also other people's motives and so forth. So I try to put those into experiences that others may relate to.
Okay. And what the future for you in poetry? What do you have any plans to keep performing moving forward, or what or just kind
Well,
of
of
play it by
course. I
ear?
mean, it's like I said, I would love to perform at schools, colleges, and so forth with some of the things that are appropriate. A lot of my poetry is not for the faint of heart or children, but there's some of it that's strictly for adults. So, some of that I could potentially perform at colleges and so forth. That would be great. That would be a lot of fun, and I'd love to travel and do that.
So just like you manifested the Redwoods trip on the last podcast, right now, Khalilah Yasmin manifesting going on a college poetry spoken word tour, mixed in maybe talking about your books, whatever. You bring a lot to the
Heck
table, and
yeah.
I think there's a, and I was on in college, my university. I was on those some of those committees that brought people to the schools, or at
That's
least I
awesome.
went. Uh, Shout out to Iggy, who you met years ago in Vegas.
Yes.
I met him. He went to my university, but he was performing. He was performing his poetry, and I just went. I'm like, let me check this out. And these colleges have budgets to book things, and actually, a lot of times they have to use it up. Like they get a certain amount of money each semester, and they need to fill it.
That's
So
amazing.
at least that's how it was back when I was in school. But I think there's most definitely opportunity for you out there.
I love that. That's amazing. I'm in my manifestation era. So gonna manifest that.
And if someone's listening right now, should they go through your website to book you for
Uh,
something like that? And
yeah, they can go to my website. It has a contact page to reach out to me, and I do get those. So
that's KhalilahYasmin.com.
correct.
And we'll put that in the link, and we'll also plug that at the end. I'm trying to plug things more often throughout the episodes now, because who knows when people are listening in, or
Right.
if they got to this point, at least they're going to hear.
KhalilahYasmin.com.
Yeah, exactly. So you got a lot going on. You got the Redwoods, letters never sent. A question I have for you, as we dive deeper now into the artistic process. I have begun, I say begun and dabble, emphasize the word dabble, into beginning to try to write some of my own stuff in book format. And it is extremely difficult. I cannot, at least on my, like, I feel like it takes a level of focus, and also direction. Like, because I'm just, something like you thought in your head was like a really good idea, then you actually start to execute and start writing it, and then I'm like, oh my god, this is like nothing like I thought it would be, and I don't even
That's
know
the
if I
first
want to
step to being a
continue.
writer.
So you have, I mean, how many books total now? How many is it total that you've done?
7.
Seven. That's what I
Magic
thought.
7. Redwoods was Magic 7.
Yeah, that's a human. I mean, to do one of these is a huge accomplishment, but for you to do this 7 times, you obviously have figured out a formula for yourself to have an idea, to execute it in terms of just the writing it, but then to actually execute the vision of putting it together, the artwork, and selling it online. Like, what is it in your process that, like, do you do the same thing every single time? Is it different every time you go out to read a book? Can you take us through how you're able to complete all these books?
Creating is a lot easier for me than marketing. I get anxiety about putting myself out there sometimes, so that is something I need to work on. I'm not I mean, I know how to use social media, I know how to click share and so forth, but I, with humility, I admit I'm not super marketing savvy. So as far as my creative process goes, this is going to sound morbid, but I'm always thinking in the back of my head, one day I'm not going to be here anymore. And that's my motivation. So that forces me to put something out there. Now, before these two books that I put out in October, I hadn't published anything since Matador in 2018. So it had been 5 years. So that was another motivation to put out two instead of one. Because poetry, it's like I have an arsenal of poetry that I can always put together in a book because I'm constantly writing poetry. So all I have to do is collect it all and put it together. It's the sitting down and formatting it and so forth and deciding which order I want to put things in, what's going to be impactful. Should this make the cut? Should it not make the cut? As far as like writing a long form fiction novella or novel, it's a little bit more difficult because if I take too long of a break with it, I have to start over and like really dive into these characters all over again. I there's a certain focus where I can sit down there for a couple hours, and then if I get distracted with, life things and being an adult and responsibilities, I get a little sidetracked.
Now, for you, do you write from anywhere? Or do you have a specific routine? Like, okay, this is when I write, I shut everything off. I open the laptop, I go to a coffee shop, or I go to this place in my house, or is it just whatever you feel?
So I can write from anywhere. I like to put on film scores while I'm writing. So a little Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, some Clint Mansell, and just anything without words. Um, that speaks to me. And if I have my headphones in, I can basically write anywhere, even with chaos going on around me. Coffee shops can be a good place. Sitting in nature can be a good place to write. Sometimes at home, I can be in the zone, but home is also a distraction because I'm thinking about, huh, I should put a load in the wash. You know what I mean? Like, but when you're away from those types of distractions and you're just here to accomplish a goal, and you know that the longer you stay here, you're going to have to buy another coffee or cupcake or sandwich, it forces you to like stay focused and, really dive in.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was in a book I recently was reading. It talked about Stephen King, how 4 hours a day he just blocks off completely. No anything can get a hold of him. He just writes for 4 hours. But when he's done for the day. He
That's
does
beautiful.
family stuff. He does, and someone like him with the amount of volume he's put out, you're like, this guy has to be writing all day, every day. There's no way. But he just stuck to. Uh, he didn't say this. I heard another writer say this, but the key to writing, they said, was just anyone can write 500. I can't remember the number of words, but like write X amount of crappy words a day. Like whether you're feeling it or not feeling it, just write. And just
I feel
dedicate
that.
yourself to that time. And that sounds like Stephen King. Like he just, nope, this time to this time, it's pure productivity. Then we're done. Like he doesn't think about it. It was interesting.
There are times when I get in the zone. Excuse me. There are times when I get in the zone. Like in January when I first started writing Redwoods, I was writing like 1,000 words a day because I knew where everything was going. But there are times, and I wouldn't call it writer's block, but there are times when I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I know I see this point and this point, but what am I going to fill the gap with? And that's when I'm like, this has to make sense. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I'll set out these goals and then I'm too hard on myself because I'm like, I wanted to write 1,000 words a day. Yesterday I wrote 2,000, but today I'm struggling with 500 because I'm trying to bridge this gap. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. And another question for you. Have you, I'm sure you have, but maybe not. Like, have you ever had like an idea like, oh yeah, this is, I'm going to write this thing. And then you started writing it and you're like, nah, abandon ship. Like this isn't, I don't want to, I'm not feeling this anymore. Let me move on to something else. Or do you just stick it out and to completion?
So there is a book that's still on my laptop that I'm talking to you on that I never finished. And yeah, so I've had those moments where there's an idea that just didn't come into full fruition, and it's just sitting there, and I feel like, wow, I wasted my time. But I moved on to Entertaining a Shadow at that time, and some of the components from that book ended up in Entertaining a Shadow. So it's like I didn't completely abandon that project, but it was completely different than Entertaining a Shadow. I just had to borrow some things so I could still, you know, make it make sense.
Now we can, we've plugged everything. We'll plug it again at the end here. Being an artist.
Yes.
The life of an artist. A gift and a curse, right?
Yes. The struggle.
What's your experience
Yeah.
as an artist? What's your maybe a better way to start this off? What's your experience as an artist, but also trying to live a civilian life at the same time?
Well, you know, I've been writing as long as I can remember. My mother said I started writing before I could even, really formulate sentences. So that's how I know it was just a hereditary thing that was just in me. And it's interesting. Sometimes people will reach out that I haven't talked to in a long time. Are you still writing? And it's like, if I'm still breathing, yeah. Even if I'm not writing long forms and even if I'm not sharing what I'm writing, I'm still writing somewhere. I'm still writing. So my experience with being a artist or writer and civilian is, everything isn't always, I'm not in it for the fame or money. It's to share my heart and potentially touch another heart, you know? And in the meantime, I have to make a living. So, sometimes it's a little discouraging because I'll look at the book report, on Amazon, the KDP report, Kindle Direct Publishing, and I'll see what the sales are, especially after something comes out. And it's a little discouraging because I'm like, wow, I spent all this time on this and, oh, okay, that's fine, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not in it for that. It would be great, but you just have to press on. And there was off topic, but not really off topic. Several months ago, I was interested in someone who was very financially driven. And he said something to me that stuck with me. And he asked me about my writing and said, are you making a living at this? Or is it just a hobby? And it struck a nerve because I was like, just a hobby? This is my passion. And anything can happen overnight. You never know when years and years of work is going to turn into something. It may come, it may never come, but you just never know. So,
And I'm pausing just because right there, that's an Instagram clip right there. That's going to be a motivational artist inspiration of the week right there. But no, you're exactly right. It's for me one of the hardest, and what I'm learning too is, and I had an acting, or no, it wasn't an acting teacher who said this. I heard this on a podcast from Patrick Bet-David, I believe. He said, sometimes if the person's, it's not that you need them to be ultra supportive, but if they're going to be negative and always shoot stuff down, it's better not even to share what you're doing with some people. And that's what I've learned, because you start explaining what you're doing. Well, it's a podcast and you do this, and they're like, well, how much money are you making?
yes.
That's the immediate thing they go to. You can work your ass off and spend hours and produce or write or whatever it is. And the number one question I would say a lot of people who aren't involved in creative things will ask is well, are you making money? Is that all you do? And it's I've just learned, because it's just best not even to go there a lot of times now. That, at least for me, that's what I'm learning. It's you know what? I don't need you to pat me on the back and give me encouragement, but I don't need you to give me discouragement either.
Yes. Yes. And it can be very discouraging. I was working an event Was this, I can't remember, was it before or after Redwoods? Ah, it was after. And there was an artist there who, drew caricatures. Anyway, he asked what else I did. I told him about my books, and he was like, "Oh, you're never going to make any money doing that. Nobody reads anymore." I'm like, "Thank you. Thanks." I'm like, "There are people that read." He was like, "Well, bookstores are going obsolete. You know that, right? Nobody reads because bookstores are. I'm like, "But bookstores do still exist, and there are still readers. I know them. Granted, I can't rely on the 10 readers I know to, support my lifestyle, but there are readers." So, it's just a lot of people are financially driven, and I get it, especially in this economy, that we have to find ways to make a living. And some people don't believe in doing anything that isn't making money, which is, to be honest, I feel sad for them because there's more to life than just creating revenue. What are you passionate about? Is all you're passionate about is just money? It's great to make money. We all need to survive. Yes, no doubt. However, that can't be the only drive you have, because that piece of paper, money, if you have all the money in the world, then what? What's going to, wake you up every day and motivate you if you don't have anything that you have to make money for? And, your account is filled with billions. What's your driving factor? What are you passionate about? What gets you excited and brings a smile to your face? How are you touching other people's lives? There's got to be something else.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I fight it all the time. I fought it for years, and you just have to accept the reality that in this third dimension, you have to pay rent. You got to pay bills. They're not going to stop. And it's like, I feel as an artist, like, especially, I'm not saying it hasn't been that way for all time, because I'm sure they had to pay certain things, but you just couldn't probably sit around and paint all day in most situations, unless you came from wealth or whatever. But at the same time, I feel like today, it's getting harder and harder. And I know the argument back, someone's going to say, well, there's more ways to make money than there ever has been. You can make money you can do this, yes, that is a true statement. But I find myself gravitating toward people but say, like, what if it didn't have to be that way? Like, what if, I'm going off into way left field here, but like, what if you could just create all the time? Like, what if would our society be even, could it be something completely different?
That would be
if people
amazing. I want to move there.
we'll get the spaceship ready. It's like, if people could, like, your only job was to get in tune and find the highest version of yourself and figure out what it is that you would be best spending your time. And one question, I'm bringing all this up because I've been in a lot of conversations with a lot of different artists lately. People say, follow your passion, and the money comes. Well, I don't really think that's necessarily true all the time. Is it true for some people? Yes, but there's some things that you're passionate about and like to do that may never generate a dollar. And there's some things that you could care less about, but it makes tons of money. So,
right.
So it's a weird dance. And I feel the older I get, the more it's like, you kind of get viewed upon as like, oh, that was cute when you were in your early 20s trying to do this stuff. And now it's like, hey man, isn't it time to, what are you doing? Like,
but then you know what? Everybody has one thing in common. We're all going to die. So if it makes you happy and you're not hurting anybody, am I allowed to cuss on here?
Absolutely.
If it makes you happy and you're not hurting anybody, do whatever the fuck you want. If it brings you joy, do whatever the fuck you want. Do whatever the fuck you want. If it, we're all on borrowed time and we don't know how long we have. So, and nobody can tell you what brings joy to your life, what brings purpose to your life. If somebody wants to sit and scroll TikTok all day and that makes them happy, cool. If sitting with the birds and feeding them makes you happy, cool. If that's your joy, dive into that. We all have a different version of joy, and not all of our joy is going to provide income, but it will provide sustenance in some way or form here.
I love that. Besides your art, what brings you joy?
Um, Potatoes.
Potatoes?
Yeah, I love potatoes.
Like
They're
by
so
themselves?
versatile. They're so versatile with chives, sour cream, butter, fried, mashed, boiled. No. Scalloped. No. All the potatoes, basically. What else
Cheers.
brings me joy? Nature brings me joy. Seeing other people reach their full potential brings me joy. Seeing people accomplish their goals. Loving people. My friendships bring me joy. Art brings me joy. Animals bring me joy. As long as they're not barking really loudly.
Does Las Vegas bring you joy?
Lately, no.
Hmm. Can you elaborate?
Vegas has its charm, but it's just being overrun down by what we were talking about earlier. Things that produce revenue, tourist attractions. And I feel like they're forcing so many things into this one area, causing it crowded and creating issues for the people that, you know, work there and need to commute and so forth. And it breaks my heart how society, like going back to the other point, is just so financially driven. And it's just sucking the culture and the life out of things. Like back to trees. So for F1, for instance, they took down the palm trees in front of Bellagio so they could put up the stands. And even though they're supposed to put them back, I don't know if they have yet, but I don't know. Something about that just didn't feel right for me.
Well, I know
Justice for the trees. I feel like the Lorax.
I mentioned this book on the last time we did a podcast, and you've already written your own. So, but the Overstory novel, it has those type of people in it, like people. Not to give that book away, but people willing to like strap themselves to a tree so a bulldozer doesn't.
I'm not going that far. I like living,
Yeah.
but
No, I agree with you completely on. And look, I love Las Vegas. That place will always be a home for me. But yeah, no, even like I've just witnessed it over the past few years, just going back and forth. It's just not the same. Like it's not. And I look, I get it. Things evolve, things grow, things change. But I do feel, maybe because I'm not as connected to the scene anymore there, but like, when we bring up these times of the Beat Coffee House down that era, I mean,
yeah.
I really think that was such a cool area to be
It
time
really
to be
was.
in Vegas, especially as an artist. I felt it was such an amazing, so much was happening. The startup scene was going crazy. The art scene was going crazy. And it was still felt like a small town.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Now it just now everywhere you go just feels very touristy. You got to pay to park even downtown, even in obscure places. It's like there's a parking meter here now.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I when I moved to Vegas 14 years ago, part of my motivation was to be closer to California and the ocean. And I'd still like to be next to the ocean at some point while I'm living. I don't know if it's going to be California or where, but Vegas's changes have made me even more driven to make that a reality and manifest that. Another reason I was like, I'm putting out 2 books this year. I got to see what happens with these books. See if I can, move to the woods. Yeah, but Vegas has changed and it just doesn't feel very local friendly anymore. It's like the locals are what keep this town running, and there's no love for the locals.
And you know what? You have the authority and credibility to say that too. Because you've been in the art circles, you are in the art circles, and spend time in these places, and know. So I mean, you see what's going on. You experience it. It's not like you're just watching it from social media or whatever. Like,
No.
oh, they're putting a sphere there. What? Like, it
The sphere is very cool, by the way,
is
but
pretty cool. I haven't been inside, but it does look pretty sweet.
I feel like, I still wish they'd build some stuff by the M. Like the M gets no love. That's still Las Vegas Boulevard. Build some stuff over there. Stretch
And
it out.
they're building businesses out that way, because a lot of times I go out of town that way. But like the baseball stadium, I was having a conversation with someone because I guess the A's are coming. I mean, that's going to be a thing, and they want to put it like on the strip. And a lot of people are like, "That you think it's crazy now with everything? Just now try adding that." And it's like, you could build it out by the M or build it out somewhere like that. But then like the person revealed to me, goes, "No, man, they want that Vegas Strip backdrop." And I get it. I'm like, that makes sense, but
Expand the
yeah.
Vegas backdrop. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
build some more stuff out there, and the Vegas backdrop is longer, right? Makes sense to me.
And I have to bring this up because we're now all this nostalgic memories are coming up. But the first time you and I ever met in person, that was right when the Cosmo first opened, like literally probably the first month. And God, that was a fun time. That was a fun time to be in Vegas. And yeah, when I met you, I'm like, it's the girl from the internet, because we were Facebook friends.
Yes.
But man, that was 13, 14 years ago, like you said.
Well, I've been here for 14 years, so that would have been 2010 when the Cosmo opened.
So 13.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know what?
Then you went on to do the social media show.
Yep. Yep. And you were one of my first guests that ever came on.
Yes.
You were one of my first interviews I ever had on that show. And you and I met, or no, we had already met, but then you went to Ross Martin's, the social media film festival.
Mm-hmm.
I met a bunch of people at that. That's where I met Shane. Shout out to
Okay.
Carmela Vision.
Yeah, I
I'm
met
sure
him there
that's-
too.
Yeah, you met him there. So like Vegas has such a special place in my heart just because it was the origins of so many different things, friendships and projects. It was just a cool time to be there. And who knows, maybe it's like that for some people now, but I don't know, like I always felt like it felt like a almost like yeah, of course they have UNLV, but like it felt like almost like a university. Like I could be downtown and run into people I know and it wasn't even a thing, or be at town square and run into people I know and it's like a small town. It literally was like, it's like a small town.
I mean, it still has some small town vibes. I still
Sure.
go places and randomly run into people I know or have seen before. But there's something missing that I feel like has been sucked out of it in the last 4 or 5 years. And every day that I'm here, it just becomes even more apparent. And I just feel, I don't know, it's just not the same.
So you said you'd like to go somewhere near the ocean, California, the Northwest.
I don't know. I love the Pacific Northwest, but then that's another thing. It's like when I was out in the Redwoods, for instance, it was nice, it was peaceful, but I'd probably eventually get bored. So I like that I live in the suburbs of Las Vegas, and if I choose to do something, there is that entertainment value to venture out and explore. I like having a quiet life and also having options. So it'd have to be a place that allows me the dichotomy. I need both.
Yeah, I feel that because part of me lately is like, man, would I just be better off going somewhere remote? and just away from it all. But then, like what you just said, but what happens when you do get that itch that you do want to be
Right.
around some social interaction or some creative energy? It is nice. I think the answer for at least me is I want both. I want the access of a city, but I also want the living situation of quiet and secluded.
Yeah, I don't want to turn into Jack Nicholson in a Stephen King horror film. You know what I mean? By being too isolated.
Who knows? That might be one of your next books.
Who knows?
And right now
I
another
think I'm gonna start to get darker.
darker.
Yeah.
How dark you talking?
Well, I mean, Redwoods got a little dark,
It was
but
dark.
but there was a positive message overall.
Do you have an idea for your next book? Do you have any? Have you gotten that first like little? Oh, that could be something.
I'm still focused on trying to get these two books out there. Um, when I've exhausted those efforts, I'll potentially move into something different. I mean, I'm open to ideas always. So if an idea sparks me, I'm not going to say no and not start writing it. But my efforts and energy are still on that. You know what I mean?
Makes
But of
sense.
course, I would never turn down my muse in my ear. So if my muse starts whispering in my ear,
Well, and like I've told you, the beauty of what you've done, keep putting them up and keep putting them on Amazon because whatever it is, whether it's one of the books you wrote at the beginning, the middle, or the next one you come out with, if one of those is the thing that gets a bunch of attention, I mean, it's the same thing with doing a podcast. You keep doing it, but then that one domino goes off where all of a sudden you start getting people like, who the heck is Khalilah Yasmin? And like, holy cow, I came to look for one book, but she wrote 6 more. Boom.
well,
Like
they
that's
won't
the
find the first one because it's out of print, but
okay.
they'll find 6 of my 7.
Which is a lot more. I mean, just to do one is an accomplishment, but like the fact that you've done several, I mean, that's huge. You've built your arsenal.
Yeah, and I still hold out hope that one day they'll take off. I mean, not in a completely delusional state, but I like to believe that anything is possible. I'm a strong believer that anything is possible at any time. One of my favorite quotes, it's if one advances towards the direction of his or her dreams, one will meet with success unexpected in common hours by Henry David Thoreau. And I believe that. I strongly believe that. I believe that every day of my life that anything can happen and anything will happen.
Do you have any other life goals and aspirations besides from the arts for you? Maybe, I mean, aside from maybe moving to a different location, is there something else that's on the before I exit this thing list?
I don't know if it's podcast worthy, but I have tons of things I'd like to do before I leave this earth, but I don't know if the public is ready for them. Although I will share this. So if by some miraculous design I were to become wealthy, there's something that I do right now, not being wealthy. I like to do random acts of kindness anonymously, and I would like to continue doing those at a larger scale. And I think that would be fun.
You mean you're not going to post it on the
Anonymously.
internet? You mean you're not going to post it for all of us to see it so we can tell you how great of a person you are?
No, of course not. Like, I would love to have enough money that I wouldn't need recognition. I mean, not that I need recognition now, but I mean, I would love to have enough money to be one of those people that anonymously donates to GoFundMe's or sees someone at a car dealership who's, struggling to decide if what they're paying for is worth it or if they need to pay rent this month and just go pay their tab and, disappear. I would love that.
Yeah, I
I'd
think
love
that's
to be the person that I needed.
Mm. I'm gonna let that take a moment to sink in right there. Think about that.
Yeah.
That's and I can think to some times definitely where I was the one that was helped. And maybe sometimes because of those times it's like you're able to recognize it. When you've been to a certain point and you've been helped, you're able to recognize when someone else needs the help because you've been there. And you know
Exactly.
exactly what it's like and what they're going through. And it's funny you bring that up because I was actually thinking this today. Like people have no idea. And I guess I'll just use money because that's what we all go off of. But it can be anything, right? It can be your energy, your time, service. But sometimes even the smallest amounts of money towards someone can be the thing that helps them bridge the gap. Can be the thing that prevents that person from spiraling out and going the worst direction possible, and it gives them that extra umph to help them keep going. Not a
Yes.
handout, not charity, not just giving it over to something. But yeah, I am a believer in that. I'm with you on that. I would love to be in a position too to be like, you know what, I can give this person whatever X amount of dollars, and I know that they're going to be able to use this to propel what it is they're doing, and they're going to keep going and succeed at it.
Like to touch on the point with money again, like I know we all need money to survive, and a lot of people are financially driven. And money is not just about money, it's about freedom. Freedom from poverty, freedom to not stay in an abusive relationship. I know a lot of people stay in relationships they don't want to be in simply because they can't afford to separate from this person. People often criticize, wealthy celebrities, for instance, for changing partners so fast. Now that's a luxury because they don't need them, right? So they can afford to change partners as soon as there's something that they're not getting along or they realize that their values are misaligned. But the average person stays in a relationship, where they're, living together, sometimes far beyond the expiration date because they're like, how am I going to afford this on my own? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How do I separate these finances now? And it just becomes this level of toxicity that they wouldn't be in if they had that financial freedom. So, money can be a good thing. Um, I, but yeah, it means different things to different people. And yeah, I would love to be in a position to help more people have freedom.
I believe it was Jay-Z who said, "You can't help the poor if you're like them."
Yeah, I've had to tell that to some people on the street before. I'm like, you know what? I just gave some money away to somebody before you, and if I continue, I
You're gonna be right there next to him. I mean that respectfully. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. I'm like,
You know what's funny too? It's like the times I do give, and I'm like you. I like to be anonymous about it as well. But it's like there's been times where I'm maybe like, oh, okay, that person probably just who knows what they just did with that. But then there's times where I genuinely feel like, oh no, this whatever, this is actually helping right now. This is the right move. I can feel the energy. I can feel that they're genuine in their approach and
but
needing
see,
it.
we have to give from a place where we're not choosing what they do with it. You know what I mean?
That is
If
very
you
true.
want
I
them to
agree.
spend it on food, then just give them food. If you are going to judge what they spend it on, because some people are like, oh, I gave them $20, I don't want them to spend it on beer or drugs. That beer or drugs might be what's getting them through the day and allowing them to live another day.
Mm.
So we can't place stipulations on our altruism. We have to just give from the heart and just hope that this it helps this person in that day. Yes, it may be detrimental in the long run, or fast food isn't healthy. So if you chose to give from a place of generosity and love, then you just have to accept that the person needed it and used it on what they wanted.
I have to bring, I agree. And I have to bring this up. It was actually in Vegas. A buddy was out visiting, and I believe at the time he hadn't moved to he lives in a big city now, but at the time he didn't live in a bigger city. And there was someone outside, I want to say it was off Flamingo. I can't remember where. We were near the strip, and a guy was asking for money out there. And by this time I was still newer to bigger city, but I had kind of gotten the drill. Like, okay, this is everywhere type of thing. And he's like, he goes into the gas station and gets a sandwich, gets water, gets, I don't know, chips or something. And he comes out and goes, here, man, here you go. And the guy kind of just looks at him. He's like, all right. And he's like, yeah, man. And then as we're getting in the car to pull away, I swear, I hope I'm remembering this correctly. The guy literally takes it and throws it in the trash.
Oh.
And my buddy just goes, what the heck? He's going off. And I'm like, dude, it's just, that's how it works. Like, some people your heart was in the right place. Like you said, like you came with that good energy. What they choose to do with that's on them.
Yeah. If you just put your blinders on, like I didn't see, my heart was in the right place. I did what was on my heart to do. So sometimes we just have to do what's on our heart to do, and we can't let the actions of the other person affect, our generosity.
Switching topics completely. You ready for this? Now, let me ask you, is there anything that you want to talk about while we're in this forum, in this space?
Not particularly.
Any subjects that are on your mind?
I think I've discussed it all.
So I do have to ask you, so if a gentleman offers to take you on a nature hike and brings a sack of potatoes, is that a pretty good start?
He better not bring a sack of potatoes. They better be cooked.
Ah!
What am I going to do with these? Oh, you want me to cook them? Oh, I see how it is.
What if he brought you like the most organic, pure potatoes from Idaho?
I mean, I would be touched actually, especially if he knows I like potatoes. That'd be touching. But if he was like, "You gonna cook them?" I'd be like,
Or you guys can cook them together.
That would be nice. Cooking together would be nice. Yeah.
You and I have had a lot of relationship talks over the years on this subject, and I actually have to thank you for being my unofficial therapist through many of my experiences throughout the years. So thank you. And
Likewise.
Hey, that's what friends are for. So, and you and I both don't have to go into any details of any of our personal lives, but I think in general, we can maybe for the next, few or so minutes here, what do you think about relationships now? Now that we're both, have more experience navigating more through life. Do you believe in this one partner till the end of time type of thing? Do you believe that we're going to know multiple people throughout our life? What's your opinion?
I'm a hopeless romantic, and I still believe in real love. No matter what happens, I still believe in real love. That's the artist in me as well. That's the sensitive person I am. I wouldn't be a writer if I didn't believe in love. Even though I may not write love stories, but I write love poetry on occasion. And I believe it's possible to love one person, to be absolutely, irrevocably obsessed with this one person. And I think that's beautiful. I think it's possible. Yes, there are people that are polyamorous, and I fully support y'all. Support you. But that's not for me. That's not for me. I'm satisfied with just one person. And I think it's possible for somebody to be equally as satisfied, obsessed, and supportive of me and everyone out there. What else?
I was waiting to see if there. No, it's.
Oh, I will say this though. So I think with the digital age, for instance, with Tinder,
Yes.
Hinge, and all these websites, I think it has distorted people's view of having options. I've seen this several times, that people think they have all these different options. They're like, oh, well, I can just open my phone and I have 100 different men or 100 different women that would love to replace you. And it's like, have at that. Have at that. Because at the end of the day, I'm not gonna say that there aren't, there's billions of people in the world. So there are several different options out there, but thinking that because of accessibility with social media and so forth, that all these people are going to be compatible or genuinely love and care for you is just unrealistic and delusional. So I think sometimes people disregard someone um, that may be a potential good match based on, you know, um, what's the word? Shallow belief systems. And it's unfortunate, but that's the times we're living in now. Is everything is right here.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny you bring that up because I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast and they were talking about this exact topic, like how now with the online dating apps, uh, and this is what's crazy. It was like this 2 years ago when I was on them. I'm in a relationship now, so I'm not on them, obviously, but I, yeah, no, I'm not, I promise. but but the thing is, I wouldn't, even if I was single and in a position to, I don't think I would even want to be on, like, from what I now, especially with AI and all the things they were talking, they got like AI bots setting stuff up, and there's so many. Not that men can't have them too, but OnlyFans and people just want you to go follow their social media pages. I'm like, dude, like, I think in the beginning, the purity of the online apps, like there was a lot of good in them. I really do. Like the early Match.coms or Plenty of Fish. OK Cupid, I thought used to be a dope one. But now,
I, mm-mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
What they were saying was exactly what you're saying. And this actually has to do with a book I'm reading right now called The Paradox Choice. Yeah, like people is like, well, I have unlimited options. And what happens when you have unlimited options, or at least you think you have unlimited options, is you never make a choice because you're constantly throwing it away the second one little thing. Oh, no, I got 100 other matches I can go to. And it's not a good place. It's not
No, it
very good.
really
What I think,
isn't.
people don't know how to be in relationships. They don't know how to communicate. When they do get in person with somebody, it's very awkward and weird because they just know how to talk through the phone. And it's just some of the best advice I got from someone. I swear to you, to this day, the girl said to me, if you want to get good at relationships, you got to be in relationships. And I was stuck in the boat of like, well, I went on one date with this person. It's one thing if like there's absolutely zero chemistry, but there's a lot of times maybe if you just would have given it a little more of a chance, something could have developed. But we're so quick to like, nope, doesn't work. Throw it out.
Uh-oh, this is talking to me. But you know what I found? Um, I mean, I've been on dating apps, but when I was on them in the past, I was more so looking for like that missed connection, like somebody that maybe we didn't have the nerve to flirt when we saw each other in person. But the anxiety of meeting up with a complete stranger just felt it was just too much. I'm like, because they were just so pushy. And nowadays, it's really easy for me to just tell somebody I'm abstinent and I'm not going to sleep with you. And that usually chases people off pretty easily, which I appreciate and value. It's like I value myself enough to wait and only want to share that part of myself with somebody that earns it. And some people, that's their motive. So it's like I get to wean out the herd, you know? Not on dating apps, but like in real life, because I'm not on dating apps. But yeah, that works for me.
And like, in your opinion, I mean, what is an ideal way of, maybe from a woman's perspective, but I guess we can talk from a man's too. I mean, how should a man approach a woman now in 2020, as we go into 2024?
That really depends upon the man and that woman. Because what works for one woman may not work on another, you know? Sliding in DMs works for some women. Seeing them in a coffee shop works for some. I will say this though, and I think most women will agree with me. If you are trying to get a woman's attention in this day and age, come around and approach her from the front because, like, doing the stuff on the back, it's terrifying. Like, wait, what are you doing? No. Come face her. Don't grab her. Don't grab her arm and try to force her into anything. Like, face her. Present yourself with a reasonable, friendly distance. And if she isn't receptive to you, handle the rejection with ease. There's too many people in the world. And yes, there are options. Back to the options things. There are a lot of options, but your soulmate isn't the one rejecting you. So if a woman tells you that she has a boyfriend and you think she's lying, why would you want to continue pursuing somebody that's telling you, I have a boyfriend, to get you to go away? Right?
What about extending your hand for a handshake? Is that a turnoff for a woman, or how do you view that? Like, if a man came up to you, yeah, go ahead.
It depends on the woman. I particularly, I'm neutral on handshakes because I've had my hand shaken to the point of detriment where somebody like cracking my knuckles. So I don't really like shaking everybody's hands because I feel like they've been taught to make a point and make sure it's a stern handshake. And it's like, bro, you trying to break my knuckles here? Like, what are we doing? You trying to like show your dominance? Well, now I'm not interested.
So, okay, not squeezing the hand too tight, not coming up from behind. Is there anything else a man should not do when approaching and engaging with a woman?
I don't know. I back to what I said. Those are, how I feel personally. I can't speak for all women because I'm just me. I'm not every woman like Whitney. But, yeah, I just feel like being yourself. If a woman's going to like you, she's going to like you, and vice versa. If a man, a woman can approach a man too. It doesn't always have to be the man. A woman can approach a man. So if a woman, you're in a relationship, but if a woman were to approach you, how would you want to be approached? Switching the interview on you.
Let me take myself to pre-relationship stat. I think similar to what you said, something, I think, what I got? Respectful approaches. Like someone that comes to you. And when I say that, this is good because this forces me to articulate it. Like someone with that comes with respect and confidence, and I would say professionalism in a way. That to me, because sure, you want that romantic spark to be there, but that to me is going to showcase them as an overall person. Like this is someone I immediately, like, I'm able to recognize that this is someone I can take seriously. Does that make sense? Sure, absolutely. Maybe the romance thing may be there or not there. If it's there, that's an added bonus. But either way, I can take this person seriously, and I'm about to hear what they have to say.
Yes, absolutely. Like, and I would second that notion because, I want somebody. I don't like the hey ma, what's up with you? I don't. Get away from me. I like a professional, somebody that knows how to articulate and speak to me like a person. That's important.
Absolutely. Well, Khalilah, we're getting closer to the end here. I'm just looking at our time, and I want to make sure we get all our plugs in. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up on anything? You are going to get the last word at the end of the episode, so. But is there any other topic? Any life, spirituality, Prince?
Definitely not Prince. I'm Princed out. Well, because everybody, I appreciate it. It's flattering and very heartwarming that when people think about Prince, they think about me. But at some point, everybody's sending me the same Prince memes, and it's like he's dead, so there's no new content. So it's like, oh God, I gotta pretend this is my first time seeing this again.
You went to his house, didn't you, in Minneapolis? Is that where it's at?
Yeah, in 20, what year is this? In 21. Yeah. It was
What
great.
was that like
It's
for
beautiful.
you? It was
It was
awesome.
nice. It was touching. There was like 3 tiers of tours. So I did the smallest tier because I went with 2 other people, so I had to accommodate, their needs and interests as well. But I feel like I still got a great experience out of the smaller tier. If I could do it again, would I? Maybe. Maybe I would do the higher tier that comes with the pancakes. Even though I don't eat
Pancakes?
pancakes, but yeah, supposedly.
So what,
Allegedly.
you just get regular pancakes? Are they Prince pancakes or?
I guess it's like a breakfast thing or something. I mean, that was in 21. I don't know what their options are now. But the whole story with Prince making pancakes, so
I don't know
it's
the story
touristy.
about Prince making pancakes.
It's on the Chappelle show. You don't remember that? You didn't see that episode?
I did not see that episode.
Ah!
What happened?
You gotta watch it. Well, it's an episode where Dave Chappelle obviously is dressed as Prince, and Charlie Murphy is talking about an experience with Prince where he whooped their ass in basketball and then made them pancakes afterwards. It's pretty epic.
You know what's crazy? Like, I know you don't. Well, I'm not even going to mention. Well, I'll mention Bieber for a split second, but that's a whole other podcast. That's a whole other. Maybe we save that for part 3. But inside thing, kind of, not really, but. But I remember you always posting about Prince, and it's like I knew who he was, but then when I started to go through his catalog, first of all, his music's incredible. I'm like, that dude was so talented. Like, first and foremost, not only just talented, he was so interesting. Like the way he dressed, his mannerisms, he was so well spoken. He was so intelligent. Like he reminds me kind of like of a calmer version of Tupac Shakur in a way. Like he was very very in tune. I know he fought a lot for people's rights in the music industry, and like he was very intelligent guy. Like in all the interviews I ever watched with him, so composed and put together. So I can see the appeal.
I mean, so his poster was on my wall when I was a baby. Because apparently, I found out this later, but apparently for my first few months, I shared a room with my older sister. So there was a Prince poster like right by my crib. So it's like I woke up every day to this beautiful specimen. Like, how could I not be a fan? Like, he was like right there. No choice.
Well, Khalilah, this has been great. I could speak to you for 5 hours, but we'll just have to save it for. Oh yeah, we're gonna we're gonna plug away. Trust me. First of all, where can the people find you on social media? We mentioned your website. Where are all the places where people can follow you, find your work, see other stuff? I mean, you're an actor, you're a model, you're a writer, you do many things. Where are the appropriate places for people to go?
KhalilahYasmin.com. Khalilah Yasmin on Twitter. Khalilah Yasmin on Instagram. However, my main Instagram page is private. So K Yasmin Author on Instagram. And I have a public Facebook page as well. I have Threads. I got all the stuff. SoundCloud. All the
Pretty much
stuff.
just type your name in, they'll find you.
Yeah, if you Google search me, everything comes up.
And you have 2
So
books.
some people have learned.
You have 2 books out right now, Redwoods and Letters Never Sent. And you also have many
and all
more.
the former books as well, except for the first one. But yes,
And they go to
I have
Amazon.
6 books available. Correct.
Okay, and I believe, yeah, you just type your name into Amazon and your author page should pull up and they should be able to go find them all. Okay.
Yes,
great.
sir.
All right. Well, Khalilah, I always give the guest the last word on the podcast. It can be as deep or as shallow as you want. It can be funny. It can be serious. It can just be a random thought. Hey, if you just want to plug your books again, you can. The floor is yours.
What am I going to say? So I'll leave you with this. We only get one shot at this life thing. So make it memorable. Love hard, take chances, be silly, be fun. And if you really want something, don't let anything stand in your way.
Beautifully said, my friend. Grateful for you. Grateful for your friendship. Congratulations on the new books. Redwoods,
Thank you.
Letters Never Sent. Get it on Amazon. Khalilah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Sam Dever podcast. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you watch the podcast, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@the Sam Dever podcast.